welcome in. Hey, Raiders. Yolanda Fister. Big fan of your work. Welcome in, Raiders. We'll be getting going here in just a sec. I'm giving you all my mentally ill chatters. Please help them because I'm out of my depth. Oh, I'm sure they're fine. I'm sure they're a bunch of perfect little angels. Got our anonymous question box pinned to the top of the chat there. We've also got a presentation today. We're going to be talking about post-traumatic growth. Nice watch streak, comrade. Yeah. Who's ready to party? Chat, I've got a question for you. Most of us have probably heard of post-traumatic stress. How many of us have heard of post-traumatic growth? It's our topic for today. We've got a presentation for you. Just want to know. Something you heard of? Or is it something new? New term, but now that you say it, I've definitely been there. And I'm sure that, that's what a lot of people will feel. It might be a new term, but it's not a concept that's difficult to imagine. Has been limited. I'm a bit of an emotional toddler. If you have that much self-awareness, if you're that self-aware to be aware of your own limitations, that already puts you ahead. That already, we tend to be more grown than we think we are. First time I've heard it, you're in the right place. This will be a fun presentation. If you're new to the brain domain, allow me to enlighten you. We really appreciate a growth mindset. What sort of things do you think makes up a growth mindset? What sort of characteristics, what sort of qualities might a person have if they had a growth mindset? large naturals. It wouldn't hurt, but it's not necessary. I've just come off of a stressful 2 weeks. But I think the stress was moderate and more about my anxiety about unknowns. I wonder how I can maximize my growth from this. The fact that you're even thinking about your own growth shows just how well you're doing. Picked up something good yesterday. Ooh! The idea of a narcissist being some psychological switch some people have flipped in their brains is what I had. A disorder of some sort. But it being a set of behaviors and habits that build up really reframed some stuff for me. Time well spent. Thank you. Flug, thank you. Thank you for the kind words. That's exactly what I was hoping to do. And it sounds like you really were able to take away the core of what we were trying to talk about yesterday. A lot of things related to our mind, it's not a binary thing. It's not either you are or you aren't. It's how much are you any certain type of thing. And when you open up to that style of thinking, mental health makes more sense. Mind is not a binary thing. Six-slide presentation. If you want to take a sneak peek, you want to take a sneak peek, you can type !slides. If you're just ready to get to it and you want to take a look, feel free. !slides in the chat. But you know the drill. You know the drill. We like to work up to it. So we've got our question box open. I always like to start off by taking some questions. Seeing what's up with everybody. I think this should be a good one. I feel like, you know, the driving intention here was to be a very helpful presentation. So, I have a question for you, chat. What do you think of when you think of something being traumatic? Now, I'm not asking for, like, specific examples of trauma, but what is it that makes trauma traumatic? What are the necessary qualifications for something to be deemed trauma? A maiming of growth. A profound wound. A severe injury. Something that's requiring care and attention in its handling and treatment. Because it has the potential to be life-altering if not handled appropriately. Always on your mind, it tends to be. For many people who have experienced some form of trauma in their life, which I believe to be most people. Historically, our view of trauma is reserved for just the worst of the worst types of things that could happen to a person. But what we're understanding when we actually start to take a closer look at the nature of trauma, it's not always one impactful thing, it's not always one big thing, it's not always, you're overseas and your convoy gets blown up. It's not always you're in a car crash. It's not always, something traumatic and isolated. Because we can also take those types of impacts, but they might not be as large individually. It's more of a death by 1,000 cuts. Maybe you have a long-standing relationship with somebody, and they're not like outright violent or abusive in that way, but the things that they do are more subtle. And so it's just kind of like chips away at you over a long span of time. I personally believe that those types of things, just that, slow, ongoing, persistent type of accumulated pain, I feel like that can be traumatic in its own way. It's got things that distinguish it from the major event type traumas, but it's still trauma. It's just trauma of a slightly different flavor. The way I kind of look at trauma is, so let's think about our brains for a minute. Just think about your brain for a minute. We're going to think about how our brain thinks. One of the things that our brains do, just as a part of being turned on, is they process things. It processes information. It's what it's really good at. It's what it's designed to do. Interpret and process info. So what happens if something happens to you that's just so big and so disruptive that you're not able to process it properly? It's my opinion on trauma that these things sort of gunk up your system. It causes a traffic jam. It causes just things start to back up, it starts to build pressure, and it feels like this is something that I can't get past because it's something that I'm still experiencing. It's something that I'm still living. Like with normal experiences, you're able to distinguish between this is happening right now and this is something that has happened. But one of the things that trauma tends to do is kind of keep you stuck in that feeling of this is still happening. They found that one of the ways to treat trauma is to do types of therapy that literally help to relocate where the traumatic thoughts are located within your brain. Because you have a part of your brain that's responsible for the here and now. It's your active working memory. And trauma tends to just sit in that part of your awareness. So, the thing about trauma is that it is something that you can heal from, but it's something that requires care and attention. It's a severe wound. I think it would be good to have some idea of a solid definition of trauma, maybe with some parameters. Otherwise, waking up this morning is trauma, in the sense that it's just another drop in the bucket. In the sense that it's just another drop in the bucket. In the sense that another day in the mines. You know, is that traumatic in and of itself? No, but I feel like you are accumulating damage over time. You got a debuff, and you're taking psychic damage every day, and that debuff is capitalism. But that's a conversation for another day. Yeah, I'm sorry that everybody's currently taking damage over time, psychic damage, because we've all been inflicted with the capitalism debuff. But we'll worry about that later. We've got other things to talk about today. I recognize my unhelpful beliefs that resulted from certain negative experiences. One of the things that can bar people from healing is they remain just very critical of themselves for how they might have, been acting or thinking at a certain period in their life. It's about showing yourself compassion and understanding that at the time, I was just doing what I thought was best. And I can see now that I made some bad decisions, but I've been able to learn and grow from those decisions. 'Cause that's what life is all about. How are we feeling today? It's Friday. Got anything fun planned? Anything fun for the weekend? We're just gonna chat for a bit while we kind of warm up. Wait for a couple questions to pop in. But we got that presentation ready on deck, so we'll be getting to that soon enough. Chillin' and grillin'. Now that's a good way to spend the weekend. Sounds like a good idea. Maybe I'll do a little bit of that. Got some food I'm making for dinner. I might just grill it just for the hell of it. tabling at a disability resource fair tomorrow and Sunday. Ah. What sort of stuff do you plan on talking about? Go to a music festival? Sounds like fun. Hopefully it's not too humid. I'm looking forward to going out to the Renaissance Festival. I haven't been. I have been. I've been plenty of times. But I didn't go last year, is what I meant to say. I missed a year. Talking about what we as violence prevention educators have to offer to prevent SA in the IDD population. Wow. For those who are unfamiliar, IDD stands for Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. So it's kind of an umbrella term that can cover many different conditions, anything ranging from Down syndrome, autism, cerebral palsy, any number of disabilities that it affects a person's intellectual functioning or behavior. It's a population that I would encourage anybody to spend some time volunteering with. Oh no, you're fine using the acronym. It's just that, yeah, whenever you work in a space that uses acronyms, you forget that not everybody knows what the acronym stands for. No, definitely a very fun population to volunteer with. Just some very, sweet, kind people. I was watching a video. This therapist spent time and learned that since these kids are so prone and permeable to their environment, it helped if they could train the parents' energy almost more than trying to teach the kid. Yeah, so definitely. This is going to sound silly because I'm going to kind of talk about it in a way that sounds a little bit silly because I, as a person, am a bit silly. So please forgive me for that. But I think that for some of you, that's why you like me. But anyway. Human beings are incredibly vibes-based. You might not believe in the idea of vibes, but vibes exist. If you go into a dark room and it's full of people dressed in leather and they're playing heavy metal music, it evokes a certain type of vibe. If you're on a golf course with a bunch of rich old white people, different vibe. If you're at the beach, if you're at work, if you're at home, the different people that you surround yourself with. You know, is this somebody that I have to watch out for? Is this somebody that I have to be afraid of? Or is this somebody that I can trust isn't going to hurt me? And so in relationships where, like, what we were talking about here was parents working with their children. If a parent is stressed because of they're having a hard time interacting with their child, or they're feeling frustrated, the child will pick up on that frustration. Without the parent ever having to, like, say or show that they're upset or frustrated. And so a lot of what goes into establishing a good connection with another person so that you can guide them is learning how to ground yourself, learning how to regulate your own emotions, so that you can create a space that allows them to learn and grow. Like, I'll give you an example. I was working with a family. I'm not going to give any private details, obviously, because it's a confidential thing, but I can tell you, like, general things. As long as I'm not identifying anybody, it's okay. I was working with this family, and they were a nice family. They lived in a nice neighborhood, and they had a child that was their child, and then they also had this child that they were fostering. And I was called in to work with them to help work with teaching them how to better interact with this foster child. Because they were, just not as patient as they needed to be. They were dealing with some frustrations relating to their behaviors. They're like, why is he keeping food in his room? And we had to explain things like food scarcity and what that can do to a child. And so you responding with, like, frustration at their behaviors instead of responding with understanding and compassion at their behaviors is making their behaviors worse, because they feel unsafe, they feel insecure. And so that's the kind of stuff I had to teach him. I'm like, hey, listen, this guy just wants to, this little kid, he's like 9-10 years old. He's not a bad kid. Go outside and play with him. You can, like, he's got energy and you're frustrated that he's got energy. Go outside and play with him. You know how much that would make his week if you threw a ball back and forth with him? For like 20 minutes. You don't even have to do it for that long, because, like, kids are very in the moment. Time tends to pass more slowly from their perspective. 20 minutes outside can make a world of difference. But yeah, I experienced that kind of thing firsthand when I saw a situation where, like, everything was fine with the family. They were a nice family. It was just the parent was having to deal with something that they were not prepared to deal with. Because they had no problems with their other kid. Everything was fine. They're just not sure how to handle the behavioral challenges of this other child. And so it's definitely not just teaching the child to do differently, it's also teaching parents how to respond differently. Is it possible to mentally and emotionally heal, for the most part, from a bad marriage while still in it and actively working on your plan to get out? You aren't in the healing phase, you're in the enduring phase. There are some ways that you can still continue to grow, of course. You can plan ahead. You can look forward to the things that you're going to do. You can start to prepare for those things. All of the things that you look forward to doing once you're out. But while you're still in it, a portion of your energy is still going to be spent on just enduring the situation. And so you may experience some growth as you continue to look ahead towards brighter days. You can also expect that that feeling will grow in the future because you'll be out of the situation, and so it'll feel even better. I'm a person who loves and misses connection with people, but I am hesitant a bit. Friendships, romantic, sexual relations. I'm hesitant a bit now and do not want to let this marriage drain any more life experiences out of me. It's perfectly legal to spend time with friends. In fact, I think that's a way that you could encourage growth within you. If that's something that you're asking about mentally and emotionally healing. Doesn't that kind of sound like a part of the solution? Isn't spending time with friends going to be a part of that solution? Mentally and emotionally healing? So we've identified that barrier, and now we know what we want to do. This is what healing feels like. Knowing what you should do, and then just finally getting around to actually doing it. That's what healing really feels like. And then you do it, and you're like, I don't know, I didn't do that sooner. It's a very human thing. I'm just trying my best to understand it. This reminds me, I need to design the t-shirts for the Husband Haters Club. I've gotten so many questions about bad marriages. I'm not sure how many people are going through one right now. Hello, Mr. Brain Domain. Please, Mr. Brain Domain is my father. I've been struggling with regular functionality for a little while now. For example, for some reason, I cannot get myself to go to work and end up working from home with an excuse, or just want to lay in bed all day. I'm working through new antidepressant medication right now. Any thoughts? If you are feeling depressed, which it sounds like you are, just given all that you've said, there's a few different ingredients that we need in order to bake that cake. You've got a few of the ingredients already there. We just need to see, okay, is there anything I'm missing? And then of course we need time to cook. And so what are some of the ingredients that we need to add to the situation to build this new, less depressed version of ourselves? What's something that a less depressed version of you would be doing that you're not doing right now? Doesn't have to be anything big. You can think of something small. It's just as important. It's progress. So what's one small thing that you would be doing differently if you were a less depressed version of yourself? That's an important part of how you kind of dig yourself out of that hole. Just continue to ask yourself that question until one day you wake up and you realize that you've been where you're trying to go. You've been there the whole time. You just needed to keep moving. One small thing. Even if it's just tidying up your space a little bit, even if it's taking a shower, brushing your hair, going on a little walk, sending a message to a friend, trying something new, whether it be a new show, a new book, something that can get your brain moving in a different direction and out of those old loops that it's been in. In my experience, the desire to learn was one of the greatest tools that I had in the war against depression. It was one of my most valued tools. I found that the desire to learn would get me up out of bed. It would get me up, it would get me moving. So, what are some things that you would like to know more about? What are some topics? What are some skills? What are some different things that you want to expand your knowledge base? What you'll come to find is that desire to learn stuff is what keeps you going. It's what keeps you living, showing up every day. I wonder what kind of cool bugs await me under that next rock that I'm about to go turn over. I've been screaming at God. Have you tried blowing kisses? Or maybe you're looking at the wrong face of God. God's got a whole bunch of faces. Some people like to worship the angry, scary faces, and that's not really my thing. The face I worship is the one that's like... It's just like, eh? It is what it is. I'm looking up at God, and God's looking down at me like, I'm just as confused as you are, brother. Getting out of depression is just, it's a matter of patience and persistence. Just focus on that next small step. You're trying to build something. That's how you break out of those old patterns. Having a routine, even if it's just a simple one. Finding time to do things in your day that give you a feeling of, this is something that is sacred to me. It doesn't have to be anything religious or spiritual. It's just that feeling of like, this is sacred to me. It's that important. It's something that you want to do every day. It's an important part of your day, whatever that might be. However, I should let you know to be wary of falling into the path of the Gooner. For the Gooner, the only thing sacred is, cranking the hog. So beware. Beware the path of the Gooner. You know what's kind of funny is that in yoga, there's this idea of the gunas, the three gunas. They are these forces that exist in the universe, and they are something that we are supposed to rise above in order to achieve enlightenment. And I just think it's funny that in order to find enlightenment within a yogic belief system, you have to rise above the gunas. You must not submit to being a gooner. You must have conscious awareness so that you can appropriately manipulate the forces of the gunas. Anyway, I learned about this and it made me chuckle. Like, I must rise above the gunas. For yoga practitioners, awareness of the gunas provides a GPS to allow us to make choices to be more balanced, peaceful, and harmonious. We must rise above the gunas. I feel like someone had to have used that idea to overcome gooning addiction. It's just funny to me that if you want to break out of a gooning addiction, you must rise above your gooness. Can I answer this question? Yes. I can answer that question. If you have another question, I'll answer that one too. Qualities of the three gunas. Tamas is a state of darkness, inertia, inactivity, and materiality. Tamas manifests from ignorance and deludes all beings from their spiritual truths. Other tamasic qualities are laziness, disgust, attachment, depression, helplessness, doubt, guilt, shame, boredom, addiction, hurt, sadness, apathy, confusion, grief, dependency, and ignorance. I find Eastern philosophies interesting because they view psychology as a spiritual matter. In Western civilizations, we tend to look at psychology as something organic, something scientific. But in many parts of the world, they view psychology and spirituality as one and the same. An interesting alternative perspective. This is so brain domain coded, I just had to share. Okay, hold on, let's see what this is. We're going into TikTok, so I'm actually gonna mute my audio before I even open it, because sometimes TikTok will just be so loud when you open it. Okay, so it's actually muted. Even better. I feel like I'm ascending. Nothing quite like some neo-pagan music.
I've been drinking in the plasma. Sipping naturally in the plasma.
People try to say white people have no culture. This is the white people culture I identify with. Whatever it is about white people that makes us want to go out and dance in the woods, eat mushrooms, decorate with deer bones.
The minister been dosing. From a number with the national boom. Fighting information.
This is Henga.
We sent you in the mushroom spa.
I vibe with it. I vibe with it. Alright folks, we're caught up with the question box. I think we're just excited for that presentation, aren't we? I'm getting the impression that we're just excited for this presentation. We'll check the question box after the presentation. We'll go ahead and get right into it. Before we begin, just a question for you. What comes to mind when you hear this term? When you hear the term post-traumatic growth, what sort of things pop into your brain? What does it make you think? I was looking at this band, Henga. Henge? My brain reads it as Henga. It's all my German lessons. We are not from this world. We bring you music from distant planets. We offer this gift for the edification of humankind, so that eventually your species may put an end to war and set up new homes in space. I'm in. This was a good recommendation. Whoever it was that said this was brain domain coded, you were correct. I do the same thing except for psychology. I'm a mental health alien. Post-traumatic growth sounds like a positive twist on something inherently bad. Trauma is always bad. True. Trauma doesn't feel good. The point of trauma being trauma is that it's not enjoyable. It's hurtful. Post-traumatic growth is about taking that and turning it into something else. And we'll get into it. I think you'll get a kick out of this presentation. It sounds like increasing resilience. We talk about that in the presentation, actually. We talk about resilience as it compares to growth. Resilience is about our ability to endure. And it's an important thing to have. But growth is about our ability to ascend. All right, party people, are we ready? All right, party people. Let's get into it. Post-traumatic growth. All right. Let's start by redefining what recovery means. Healing is not just about returning to who you used to be. It's not about time travel. It's not about you going back to who you were before you were hurt. And this is traditionally how healing is viewed. We look at recovery as bouncing back or returning to your exact baseline before a crisis. Is this a fair definition of what healing is? Is that what healing has to be? Is that perhaps too narrow of a definition of what healed is? The reality of healing is this. When we face significant hardship, it alters your perspectives on life. You cannot unknow what you've experienced. Bummer, I know. Post-traumatic growth is about building a meaningful life because of what you've survived, not despite it. You're not failing to heal because you've changed. Because changing is the very definition of growth. Talked about resilience a minute ago and the difference between resilience and growth. So there is a distinction to be made between enduring and evolving. Resilience is your shield. It's your ability to resist stress, to hold your ground, to survive difficult events. It's a good thing to have. It's an important skill. Growth is your expansion. It's those deep shifts in your mindset, in your priorities, in your relationships that happen after the storm passes. And so resilience is what gets you through. And if it always feels like we're going through something, that might be what we tend to focus on instead of focusing on our growth. And so this ties into that question we had in the question box. How much growth can I do if I'm still in this situation that I'm trying to get out of? The growth might take time. There might be, growth often happens over a span of time. Small, gradual changes that lead you to new avenues of thinking, different perspectives, different priorities. These things don't often happen quickly. When you're still in that situation, though, resilience is what helps you to get through that situation. Now, that doesn't mean that both can't happen at the same time. You can remain resilient while also being focused on your growth. What you'll notice, though, is that once you are out of that situation, the growth will increase because you'll be able to redirect that energy. I'm less focused on just surviving and resisting, and I'm able to allocate more of my energy on my growth. Now, just a quick side note, it's important to mention that this doesn't mean that trauma was good. You don't have to convince yourself, like, I'm glad that happened because I'm such a badass now. That's not what it's about. It's not saying that it was good or that it happened for a reason. That's not what that means. We're not saying that. You don't have to be grateful for the hardship to be proud of who you became while carrying the hardship. You don't have to say, oh boy, I'm so glad that I'm struggling right now. This is so good. It's going to make me so strong. It's okay to say, this sucks. I can't wait until this is over. I can't wait until things are better. That's okay. That's what I'm saying. Is I don't necessarily forgive what happened, but I'm willing to accept it and move on. Exactly, because that's all you can do. Accepting something does not mean that you're saying that it was good or that it happened for a reason or that it's okay that it happened. But you're just accepting that it did happen so that you can move. Because then I would have to redefine right and wrong in my head, creating further cognitive dissonance. True, and we talk about this a little bit more coming up, but it's not a binary thing. It's not white and black. It's not, there's nuance in everything. So let's talk about growth. What does growth look like? Talking about growth, let's talk about the different areas in which growth can affect a person's life. When we face profound challenges, which, in my opinion, is such a empowering way of defining trauma. That was a profound challenge. These things can help to reshape our lives in meaningful ways. Now, I want you, if I'm going to read through these, and if you identify with any of these things, or you're able to observe any of these things within yourself, all I ask is that you let us know. Because I feel like it's nice to notice the ways in which we are growing. Profound challenges in life will often lead to shifted priorities in life. It gives you a clearer sense of what actually matters and a lower tolerance for things that don't. Have any of you here who have ever had to deal with some bullshit ever realized that your bullshit tolerance has decreased because of your exposure to bullshit? You now subject yourself to less bullshit. And so, in a way, isn't it necessary to encounter at least some bullshit so that we can learn to identify bullshit and therefore avoid bullshit? I can't do anything about the fact that I've been through some bullshit. But now that I know what bullshit looks like and smells like, I can avoid future bullshit. Because there's no shortage of bullshit in life. It sucks that we had to go through some bullshit. But thankfully, it will help us to avoid more bullshit further down the road. Don't spend so long looking back at the pile of bullshit that you just walked through that you end up stepping in a new pile. You gotta keep your eyes on the road. You gotta keep your focus on what your foot's stepping in right now. You gotta focus on that next step. But if you're too busy looking back saying, what the fuck was that I just stepped in? Sturls, thank you. Thank you for subscribing. What you may also notice is that having faced profound challenges in life, you may have been led to desire deeper connections in life. Perhaps it created an increased empathy for others and a desire for more authentic, vulnerable relationships. How the BS has me mad AF. I'm in the angry phase. You don't want to be angry. You want to be cold and calculating. You want to be Machiavellian. If you're at an angry point in life, try to use that energy, but be careful because that type of energy can sometimes be a little bit destructive. It's the difference between starting a wildfire and using a cutting torch. You want to be precise with where you direct that energy. You want to keep it focused and precise, so you can cut clean lines through sheet metal. You're not here to burn the whole place down. What are your opinions on DBT, and do you have any tips on someone who's thinking about working through a DBT skills workbook? If you're thinking about it, do it. I recommend it. DBT is very effective if you actually do go through the process. It has very good outcomes. It covers a lot of great areas to help a person figure out how to navigate their emotions and practice new responses, form better relationships. It's a great program. What I would encourage you to do is, if you are interested in it, start practicing some mindfulness, because that's a big part of doing DBT is practicing mindfulness. And there's a number of different ways you can do that. So find some that feel nice for you. Sensory grounding, breath work, just to name a few. Meditation, mindful stretching. It might be hard to get started in your mind, but the thing about doing DBT is that there's a certain aspect that also relates to the work that you need to do within your body in order to learn how to better regulate your nervous system. I find that that's a good place to start, because going straight to like working through the mental stuff, if the body stuff isn't figured out, you're missing that foundation of like being able to ground yourself and keep yourself calm and level-headed as you sift through some pretty profound things about yourself. Just diving right into that can be a bit stressful. So that's my tip, is to focus on the aspects in which you learn how to regulate your nervous system. Sensory grounding and mindful breathing. Great place to begin. Because ultimately those are the skills that you're going to use throughout the rest of the program. If you can keep yourself calm and grounded, it's going to be a tremendous tool that you can use throughout the entire rest of the treatment program. Let's continue. When we face profound challenges in life, it can help us to realize our personal strength. It allows us to recognize that quiet, undeniable resilience that we carry. If I survived that, then I can navigate this. This is something that I've found to be helpful. If I made it through that thing, this is no problem. This is no sweat. You recognize, I did that. I did that. I did that. I made it through. I might have come out a little bit scuffed, but I'm still here, aren't I? I'm still in the thing. These types of profound challenges can also generate new possibilities. And when we're growing, it feels like freedom. We are free to develop new interests, explore new career paths, or different life directions that we wouldn't have considered before. When we're feeling stuck, it doesn't feel like we have a whole lot of options. But when we focus on growth, we realize just how many options we actually have. Giga stuff scuffed? Well, at least you've got a good story to tell. You know, you can look back and say, yeah, I did that shit. And people will say, wow, you're really cool. You're really tough. Might have come out with a few scars, but maybe it makes you look tough. It can almost be overwhelming. Exactly. So, something to be mindful of whenever we are in that healing process is we want to avoid overcorrection. You want to avoid overcorrecting. You might come to the point where you realize, like, okay, I need to make some changes, things aren't working for me. And so you flip to the complete opposite of whatever it was that you were doing. And many of those changes that you end up making needed to happen. But we just want to make sure that we're not overcorrecting. We're not taking things too far, because stable growth isn't something that we have to rush. It's something that occurs naturally over time. You know, like a straightforward example would be, you know, if you're trying to get fit, like, okay, I need to start working out, and you haven't been working out, and you immediately jump into working out every single day for hours a day, it's like, what's going to happen? You might end up injuring yourself. It might end up turning you off from the idea of working out. So yeah, we want to avoid burnout, but we also want to avoid too much disruption. This is something that you see, like, in a good example of overcorrection would be somebody who grew up in a very conservative, religious, authoritarian household, and then they grow up and they move out of the house and they realize what a big wild world it is, and so they just do a complete shift. And like I said, it's not like some of those changes didn't need to happen. It's just that sometimes we get carried away with those changes. The idea of change just feels too enticing, and so we just make all the changes instead of strategic changes. How do you determine overcorrection if it's not something that is easily identifiable as unhealthy? It's oftentimes something that you just have to recognize after the fact, unfortunately. It's kind of like keeping balance on a tightrope. It's like sometimes you might sway this way, sometimes you might go this way, but you're trying to stay balanced in the middle and not fall off the rope. But no, I think that doing that type of stuff is, for many people, just a natural part of their growth story. You know, if you have a time where it's like you're very sheltered, you're very, you know, you live a very restrictive life, and it might lead you to just be very excited to explore all those new things, and it might lead you to a bit of excess. And it might be something that you end up getting a little bit carried away with. But then you learn from it, and you learn how to correct from that as you work to try to find that proper balance. Learning to stay balanced within your own life is something that you're going to be doing for your entire life. Just like standing on a tightrope. I think something that catalyzes your change can be a tool but shouldn't take over your life. Exactly. It's just about trying to be present and aware with whatever choice is in front of you. You know, that doesn't mean don't make mistakes. That doesn't mean don't try new things. That just means learn and grow as you go along. You know, try not to repeat harmful patterns. Having overcome profound challenges in life can lead us to feeling a greater sense of life appreciation. It can bring us to a point where we're able to find a deeper satisfaction in those simple everyday moments. You know, you think back to all of that strife and conflict and all of those things you've had to overcome and fight for and work for, and you're able to just go, learning to find satisfaction in those simple everyday moments is something that I feel everybody should learn how to do, because for many people it's not something that they realize is important until they are very old. What you've probably noticed about old people is that this is a lesson that many of them learn in life, and oftentimes not until they're a bit older. Just appreciate those simple everyday moments. It's never too early to learn how to appreciate them. Even something as simple as just having a cup of your favorite tea. Well, it's more than just having a cup of tea. You're doing this because you enjoy it. You're taking time to commit yourself to your feelings of joy. That might have been something that you've not always been very comfortable doing, but it's something that you learned how to do. It's something that you helped to build for yourself. So even just something small like that, if just done with patience and persistence, it can really just grow and build into something that just feels very deeply meaningful to you. Imagine you lived a life where you treated everything that you did as something that was sacred, with that level of appreciation, with that level of care. What might life feel like? Do you see what I mean when I talk about seeing something as like the way that I view something as being sacred is like utmost importance to me. Like, this is something that I feel resonates within my very soul. You know, this is something that, this is something that defines me as a person. So what do you think it might offer you if you were to view life in such a way as you continue to focus on that feeling? Is there anything in your daily routine that feels of that level of importance or significance? Something that you would describe as being sacred to you? Could be petting your animal. Maybe you got a dog or a cat. Maybe it's taking care of someone or something that you care about. You view that as something that is sacred to you. Taking a shower, even. It could be anything. That's the thing. There's no wrong example. It's those types of things that are able to help to pull you out of a negative thought loop. It's that feeling of, I'm answering to a higher calling within myself. I'm working towards the bigger picture. Taking magnesium an hour before bed. There you go. Anything that you do that's looking out for you or the people that you care about. It doesn't have to be anything spiritual, but it could be. It could be a spiritual practice. We often interpret the two as one and the same, spiritual, religious, sacred. But we're using the word sacred as just an emphasis on the level of importance and meaning. So yeah, it could be a spiritual belief, it could be a non-spiritual belief. I'm gonna start taking better care of myself. Would it surprise you if I told you that you have been already? You're just now realizing the importance of doing so. It took work to get to where you're at right now, and that was you doing that. You just didn't use that name for it. You just didn't interpret it as that. It might have just felt like survival. That's a W. W gold star. Let's continue. Let's talk a little bit about what trauma does to our understanding of life. We have this sort of mental blueprint exists within our mind when we're young. And what trauma can do is it can devastate that perspective. And rebuilding that perspective on life takes time. And so within us, we have the old blueprint, our understanding of life as it exists before a major hardship. We're able to operate under these basic assumptions about safety, fairness, control. But then something happens. That seismic event, whether it be trauma or hardship, it can disrupt, it can shatter that mental blueprint. And so, in rebuilding that, when we're in that growth process, this is that quiet work that we do. This is that work that we do in the privacy of our own heart and in our relationships with the people that we care about. As we sift through those pieces and decide what to keep, what to let go of, and what to rebuild. So feeling lost after a life disruption isn't weakness. It's that natural period between the old blueprint breaking and the new one being built. And so that's what we're working on. We're in that process of growth. We're in that process of rebuilding. Is that a process that's ever going to be finished? Maybe not. Does a city ever stop growing? What you may come to find is that when you live a life that is focused on your own growth, you don't ever intend to stop growing. You recognize that it's okay that I'm unfinished. I'm gonna keep growing until I can't grow anymore. So try to let go of that idea that you have to be some specific type of way in order to be your ideal self. It's an ongoing process. There will always be more to uncover. But it can be a process that you learn to celebrate and enjoy as you continue it throughout the rest of your life. My dog needs attention real quick. I'll be right back, chat. Give me just a sec. I'm coming, Dr. Dog. Something friends along the way. Precisely. Something friends along the way. I'm back. All right, it's time to get paradoxical. Let's talk about the paradox of healing. We're going to be going through some uncomfortable truths, but don't worry, you're going to be just fine. Unfortunate truth number one is that pain and progress belong in the same room. I know. I wish that getting better and healing only felt good all the time. I do. But unfortunately, it does not. We tend to think of ourselves as either suffering or healed. In reality, though, it's not an either-or, black and white situation. The truth is, there is nuance here. And when we can learn to understand and appreciate that nuance, we can feel more genuine with our experiences. It's okay to feel grief or anger or sadness. You can feel those things. And you may still be experiencing post-traumatic growth. Growth does not always feel good. Sometimes growth hurts. But ultimately, it's for a good reason. You know, imagine thinking about a behavior that you have. You know, imagine that you have a behavior. Maybe you're impatient with your friends. Maybe you can be snappy or rude or mean to them and you don't mean to be. Owning up to that and recognizing that is painful. You don't want to feel like I'm that type of person. But what you recognize is that this is just a behavior. This is something that I can correct. It also does not define me. And so it's okay to recognize that there might be some things about you that you're not very fond of, or you might be working through some difficult feelings, but that doesn't mean that you aren't growing. I always lean so hard into the other side when I feel like I've failed at my intentions for growth, lol. Oh no, I feel you. Sometimes that's all you can do is just be like, I'm gonna leave it in God's hands. I'm gonna leave this, I'm gonna let Jesus take the wheel. Buddha. Krishna. Ganesh. Poseidon? Somebody take this. Someone else suggested to me that it feels better to be present with a pain than it is to ignore or avoid it. Because then it feels like we're doing something, right? Now, I find that to be true. It feels good to be working through something. Even if it doesn't feel good, it feels like, well, I'm glad that I got around to doing that finally. It's a weight off of my shoulders. It's a weight off my mind. The balance here, though, is that we need to learn how and when and for how long to be present in that pain. We don't want to get stuck in it and have it be all that we think about. It's normal to have a bad day. If you have a tough day or you have a day where you're just feeling triggered by something, that's not evidence that your growth has reset to zero. That's not some sort of, indicator that you're not making progress. These things happen. These are opportunities to learn from. This is just life presenting us with new avenues for growth. Healing is not a binary thing. Grief and gratitude, they routinely sit at the same table. Have you ever noticed that whenever you're feeling those feelings of grief or, grief and gratitude, I feel like they often go hand in hand. I personally feel that it is this paradoxical nature of healing that makes people avoidant of doing it. Because it doesn't feel good. It might be hard to process those feelings, and we might just try to avoid them. If healing felt good to do, everyone would do it. Well, maybe not everybody, because there will always be contrarians who will just go, I'm not gonna do it. Because you told me to do it, so I'm not gonna do it. Even if you're like, no, please do it. It feels excellent. Please do it. They're like, I don't believe you. But if getting better felt good all the time, or at least in the beginning, then I feel like more people would do it. Ultimately, it does feel very good. Ultimately, it's incredible. It feels like your life's sacred purpose. Your own growth and understanding. The extension of your empathy and compassion. Allowing your love to shine as brightly as it can. I go from grief to chaotic action. Gratitude feels weird for my mind to approach. I don't know why though. It's just because you're not practiced in it. What is something in your life that you feel grateful for? It could be a pet, it could be a person, it could be something in nature, it could be a food, it could be anything. You're just training your brain to think in that direction. It's like weightlifting. Gratitude is a skill that I would encourage everybody to practice. How you build the road to joy in your mind. By laying down bricks of gratitude. Sorry, the saxophone is just... I've listened to this lo-fi playlist enough, it's like I can start to recognize songs. Akin to savoring the flavor of a tasty food, but for that awareness in your mind. I see. Precisely. It also is a good way to practice the skill of just pointing your mind in a different direction. That skill in and of itself is incredibly helpful. Following along so far? We all feeling good? Thoughts, questions, comments, concerns? Not acknowledging the problems of the world constantly drives a feeling of guilt. Given I acknowledge it's not healthy. We can understand that something is unhealthy, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to do it if it feels like something that we should be doing, because we can be self-sacrificing in that way. However, are all of the problems of the world yours to shoulder? How many hours do you need to clock in to dedicate to those problems? Because here's the thing, there are too many problems in the world for you. There are too many problems in the world for me. You could spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, learning about new problems and things going on in the world. Is that doing anything to help solve those problems? Your problems that you're facing, whatever it is that you might need to be focusing on within your life, is just as important as any other problem in the world. We can't expect ourselves to properly do anything about other problems in the world unless we are in a place to actually do something about it. And we do that by taking good care of ourselves. The world needs you whole, precisely. We need you showing up at your best. Taking care of self in this economy, good thing it's free. Spend too much time learning about world problems. At ease, soldier. You are relieved of duty. Go up in the watchtower of your mind and find whatever armed soldier is sitting in that watchtower on lookout duty and just relieve them of duty. Time to take... Your shift has ended. You are relieved, soldier. How do you navigate all of these things? Sometimes I find that I know or I have the tools, but executing them can be tricky. That's the fun of learning and discovery. What I find is that the best way to navigate is just to focus on that next step. Try not to get too far ahead of yourself. We want to have an understanding of the direction that we're headed in, but we don't want to stumble. We don't want to trip over something. And we definitely don't want to step in some bullshit. So it's not about navigating all of the things, it's just about navigating through where you're at right now. Worry about where you'll be later when you get there. There was this one time, this was a few years ago, and I was meditating, and I was just kind of taking an assessment of my own awareness, trying to understand my own anxiety, and it felt like I was approaching a part of my mind that felt like it was the guard stationed in the watchtower, and they've been there for years, and they have never been relieved of duty. And they're just tired and exhausted and on edge because they're always worried about something coming over the horizon. But I found it to be very relieving and very peaceful to approach that aspect of my awareness and say, "At ease, soldier. You are relieved." It felt like, whoof. As a weight off my mind. That's something that being in a survival state of mind will do to you. It'll leave a significant portion of your awareness fixated on the perception of outside threats. Up high in the watchtower, looking through binoculars, trying to find blips on the horizon so that it can set off the alarm. I served? No, not me. I have not served in the military. I did serve my time working in the field of public mental health, though. You know, I've done street outreach. I've worked with, people who had co-occurring disorders of substance abuse and mental health. I've seen some shit. I've worked with families, at risk of losing their kids. I've seen all manner of trauma and abuse and neglect. So I feel like I've served my time. I was not in the armed forces, but I do still feel like I did my tour. Yeah, I'm a veteran of the class war in the United States. That's a good way to put it. I want to get a hat that says Class War Veteran, actually, but it looks like a Korea War Veteran hat. Wouldn't that be cool? It just says Class War Veteran. It's got a little hammer and sickle on it. Brain Domain merch idea? Oh yeah. I need to write that down. I'll add it to the list. I'll put it right next to Husband Haters Club t-shirt. I need to do that. I need to get in there and start designing some merch. Responding to a message real quick. Oh yeah, need to write down idea. Note to self. Stream is always such good group therapy vibes. We have fun, don't we? I wanted to ask if there was a good way to meditate if someone has overthinking issues. Me personally, I need music to even go to sleep. So, you're a perfect candidate to practice meditation if you find yourself to be an overthinker. Most people, at their default, are overthinkers. Now think about your brain for a second. You've got this highly advanced electronic supercomputer that's capable of processing things at such a high speed. You've got some real computational power in that thing. And so overthinking is way easy to happen. It's like you've got a lot of horsepower. Meditation isn't about not overthinking. it's about learning how to take a step back from your thinking so that you can just watch it as it does what it does without attaching yourself to it. You don't have to slow yourself down and not think anything. You just have to watch what you think without responding to that compulsion to intervene with myself or to participate in my thinking. I'm just going to observe my thinking from a detached place. You can try a guided meditation. I have one on my YouTube channel. I made a guided meditation for beginners. A little bit of self-promotion there. It's the only one on there, so it should be easy to find. But if you're interested in trying meditation, I have a guided one, and I designed it for beginners. It's like 10 minutes long. But yeah, that was one of the things that got me into learning how to meditate, was I felt like I needed to slow my mind down. I'm overthinking everything. And what I realized was that the fact that I can overthink does not mean that I have to overthink everything. I'm recognizing that my brain is just capable of overthinking. I'm capable of having very deep thoughts about stuff. I'm capable of exploring different outcomes and anticipating different possibilities. This is a strength. I'm new here and wanted to extend a friendly hello. Hello! I'm a psychologist and excited I've found this channel. Welcome in. We were just having a discussion about post-traumatic growth, and someone in chat was asking about meditation. One of the things that I've always said is that I found meditation to be the real game changer when it came to my own relationship with my mind. It did more for me than anything up to that point had. It completely changed my relationship with my brain. Now, the thing about meditation is that once you practice doing it, you can realize that you can really use it as a platform to launch into all sorts of avenues of thinking. And that's something that should be done with proper understanding. You know, if you're going through a hard time and you're just going to sit down and try to allow your brain to freely associate about those particular topics, it might be very emotionally challenging. Whenever you're just letting your awareness flow freely, it might surprise you where it takes you. And so that's why if you're just getting into the start of the process, it might be nice to just do a guided meditation, something that's got, it's meant to just help you to feel relaxed and, I was getting a message to see if we're gonna have our cousin over tonight. So yeah, we're gonna. All right, cool. Thank you. Are there fantasy-based guided meditations, or is that silly to imagine? The thing about meditations is that you can go anywhere. You can do a meditation where you're focusing on building a garden within your mind. You can go into your mind palace and decorate. You can meet your spirit guide. There's all sorts of fun things you can do in meditation, because a lot of it is just tied into that sense of your own imagination. And it's fun to take that for a walk sometimes. It's nice to let that thing out so that it can breathe a bit. Might help you rediscover your whimsy. I have a friend, he said he could lucid dream on command after meditating well enough. It's like, when you practice meditation enough, it really is like walking up to a door in your mind and then stepping into a dream. You start to learn how to get to that headspace where you're just in a sort of dreamlike state. I used to lucid dream all the time. I found it difficult lately, though. Well, blame Benjamin Netanyahu. It's his fault that you can't lucid dream anymore. Alright, gang. Let's talk about cultivating growth in our daily life. A major goal of healing is moving out of survival mode and into intentional living mode. Because that's really where trauma keeps us stuck, isn't it? It keeps us stuck in survival mode. It makes sure that there's somebody up there manning the watchtower, keeping their eye on the horizon for any potential threats. All hands on deck. Red alert. DEFCON 2. When it comes to cultivating growth in your life, try to pay attention to those subtle shifts. Because that's where real growth happens. It's not always these big things like, oh, I moved across the country, or I got a whole new job, or it doesn't always have to be something grand. We want to try to find those aspects of subtle growth within us. Pay attention to how your boundaries, your self-awareness, or your empathy have changed over time. Have you learned to be a bit more patient, a bit more compassionate with yourself and with others? This is where the real growth is in all those tiny little steps, all of that small little growth that just accumulates over time. Sometimes it happens so gradually that we don't even notice that it's happening. And that's why it's important to learn how to identify it. Sometimes it's helpful to think back to where you were a year ago. Where were you at mentally this time last year? How have things changed since then? Now, there's no right or wrong answer here. You can recognize that things have changed for the better. You can recognize that things might have become more difficult. But if we want to do anything about it, it starts off by being aware of where we are, so that we know where our next step is, so that we can get to where we're trying to go. This is why I'm asking you to share your W's with me all the time. Gold star to anybody who can share a W. Even a small W. Maybe you got up and went for a walk. Maybe you took a shower. Maybe you tidied up your room a little bit. Maybe you did a load of laundry. Maybe you made a silly mistake and you didn't chew yourself out and berate yourself endlessly. Oh my god, I can't believe I did that. I'm such an idiot. Maybe you were a bit more patient with yourself. Maybe you were a little bit more understanding. Every year I feel I've made progress based on how I treat myself and people around me. We love a growth mindset, don't we, folks? We love a growth mindset here in the brain domain. It's the only thing mandatory for the brain domain. I don't care who you are. Just have a growth mindset. went for a walk and a chipmunk ran through my legs. Oh, wow. Then another one came out of the bushes and ran through my legs again. I love those types of animals like squirrels and chipmunks and stuff. Especially ever since I rehabbed a baby squirrel. Getting to raise one, it really increased my appreciation for those types of animals. Such cool little critters. They're like little acrobats. Went and exercised in the pool and now made myself dinner. Nice. Actually made my bed this morning. That counts. Submitted my first affordable housing project for permit recently. Huge. Today's my second day free from ED. One day at a time, partner. One day at a time. The only number that you ought to be worried about is 0. Doesn't matter if it's 1 day, 2 day, 7 day, 30 day. As long as that number's not 0. Well, keep up the good work, partner. Cooking for yourself feels like the best form of therapy a person can give themselves. It's up there for sure. It's definitely up there. Cooking a nice meal for yourself, based on your own tastes, it's an act of self-love. Like, I'm gonna make this just the way I like it, because I want to enjoy this. Tonight for dinner, I'm gonna make pasta with chicken and sausage. I might grill the chicken first. I'm feeling fancy. I don't know. We'll see. Throw a little smoke on it. Throw a little stank on that chicken. A big part of growing is opening up to a new perspective on your story. A big part of how we heal is learning to shift our own internal narrative. Instead of looking at a challenging event as something that this broke me, I am now broken, we can reframe that. We can look at that differently. This was something that reshaped what I value in life. This was something that made me prioritize the things that matter to me. It does not need to be what defines you. But you can still find things to help you reshape who you are. There was this random account I found on YouTube, just some small YouTuber, just some old dude. And he would just like spout off these bits of wisdom. And there's this one that lives rent-free in my head, and he was like, "The body keeps the score, brother, but you hold the pen." I was like, "You're goddamn right. The body keeps the score, but you hold the pen." It's like, thank you, random YouTube video with 4 likes. This is something that you commonly see, though, in people who feel healed, is that they have been able to tell a new story about the things that have happened to them in their life. You might find inspiration from exploring other people's stories as well. You know, one of the things that I often draw inspiration from is just hearing other people's stories of how they were able to navigate and overcome things that you might find incomprehensible. Like, wow, there's just no way. There's no way I could have done that. Off topic, but I was in charge of driving to Costco and back with my brother tagging along, so I had you playing while we were driving. He made a couple of snide digs at the content, but he did let me listen, so progress. Tell him to come say them to my face. No, I'm happy to engage. Like, if he has something that he'd like to say, I would love an opportunity to respond. There's this thing that I've noticed sometimes that men will do, and I'm speaking on men as a man, so please forgive me. But there's this thing that I've noticed that men will do, and it's this idea that, like, I can never learn another thing from another man. No man can ever teach me anything ever. Like, no, brother. No, brother. We're on the same side, brother. Do not use your strength to push me down, brother. We can help one another up, brother. That sounds wrong, though. I think it is. Just sometimes men can have a bit of a like adversarial relationship with other men. It's like they have a hard time actually being like emotionally close and open to their friends, and sometimes it's viewed more as like a rivalry. Which is something that I've been guilty of from time to time too. You know, I was you know, it speaks to how you were raised. You know, how are you raised to view other people? Are other people someone that you should be suspicious of? Are other people someone that you should be questioning of because you're not sure what their intentions are? Are other people that you can engage with, that you can open up to, that you can learn more about? But no, this has been part of my own growth as a dude. Recognizing that we're all on the same team, brother. They want us to feel like it's a zero-sum game, brother. There are oats enough for both of us, brother. This fact is the reason me and my dad can't get along emotionally, but I still love the guy as much as he gets on my nerves for that reason. I try to use the logic against itself. Whenever a man is like, I don't want to engage emotionally, that's not a good use of my time. It's like, what's the matter? Are you scared? You telling me you, a big grown man, are afraid of feeling your own feelings? That doesn't sound very manly to me, brother. A real man feels his feelings, brother. A real man is not afraid to cry, brother. You need not run from your emotions, brother. Sound like someone from Warhammer 40k. That's what I was going for. You are my battle brother. I would ride headlong into the jaws of evil if I had you by my side, brother. Blood for the blood god? No, we don't worship corn in this house. Cornites out. Anyway, enough distraction. We've got a slideshow to finish. Another way that we can cultivate that feeling of growth in our life is to focus on those small choices that we make. Focus on the things that you have control over today, rather than trying to fix things that happened in the past. That's where your real power lies. That's where real progress is made. In the moment that you are in it. Someone said corn. Keep rolling on when my brain's ticking like a bomb. No, not corn. It is corn with a K though, but it's spelled Khorne. It's one of the gods of chaos from Warhammer. He's the one that's all like, blood for the blood god, he's the blood god. Skulls for the skull throne, it's his throne. It's a big angry demon that likes to sit on top of a pile of skulls, and he's like, go, fight! Post-traumatic growth is not some destination where you've just forgotten your past, you're just totally over it, nothing I'm ever going to think about ever again. It's more about the wisdom that you carry into your future. Remember, healing is not a binary thing. It's not either you aren't or you are. It's about how healed you feel. It's about how much of your own growth you're able to celebrate. It's about how you're able to strengthen your connection with the people that you care about while you have time to do so. Alright, chat, this has been the presentation on post-traumatic growth. If you would like a copy of this slideshow, you can type !slides in the chat. Thoughts, questions, comments? How are we feeling? Are we feeling optimistic or empowered? That was kind of my goal with this presentation topic. Now, we often talk about trauma and how much it affects somebody and how disruptive it is and how hurtful it is, but we don't often talk about where we go from there and how we can make things better. So that's what this was all about. This was amazing. The timing's on point. Would you believe that I, from time to time, will pay attention to the trends and the topics of the stream and adjust my my presentations and the topics that we discussed based on the trends and topics that pop up in the stream? I think that's why my brother butted heads with it earlier, because he stays in his hurt. People will do that, and then they'll feel like this is right to do. This is noble to do. I need to do this because this is part of who I am. We identify as our pain. You are not your pain. You are the one that experienced it. And you are the one that decides where you go from here. Do you choose to wallow? Or do you choose to grow? Going through this PowerPoint makes me realize not only the things I need to learn, but also the things I have covered by myself already, and it's nice to realize that, so thank you for that so much. You are welcome. That was something that I wanted to, when you have a growth mindset, it's not just about understanding where you need to go and how you need to grow. It's about recognizing the ways that you have grown already to get to where you're at right now. Even though you might feel like you're just getting started, you've probably done a lot to prepare yourself and to adjust your thinking to get where you're at right now. Because there's something within you deep down that has always been moving you in that direction because you know it to be true within the fiber of your being that things should be better for you. And so it's a dream that you never truly gave up on. It's always been there in the background. This was great, brother. When is the next one? The next one, we'll probably do another one on Tuesday. What we'll probably do on Tuesday is we'll probably do I'll probably go through and I'll find an old one and I'll update it because I've got so many topics to talk about. Maybe I'll do one from last year. I'll go back to last August. One of my personal favorites, how to use anxiety as a tool. Powerful stuff. How to tame your inner critic? That's a good one. It was great. I will be rewatching later. If there's why did I forget how to talk? If there are ever any points of discussion that you would like to have about these topics, feel free in the Discord. If there's any stuff that you'd like to keep the conversation going. Thank you for your presentation. What was the command for a copy? It is !slides. Remember when we did the leftist infighting presentation? I don't think online leftists were ready for this. I don't think they were ready for this one. Oh, you are very welcome. I am happy to provide. It felt like the right topic for the day. Alright, Chat, we've got the question box open. Got a question in there, and I'll be getting right to it. Hasn't been sitting in there that long, so we'll be getting into that here in just a moment. On behalf of Hope, I thank you for your efforts. I feel like I'm just out here fighting the good fight. I'm just doing what feels right to me, even if it doesn't make money in a capitalistic society. What can I say? I watched Robin Hood as a child, and I was just too inspired by it. I watched Robin Hood, and I just got too excited about the idea. Redistributing the wealth. And in this case, it's a Robin Hood of mental health. A lot of this information hides behind a paywall. And our goal here in the Brain Domain is to make psychology accessible. That's my mission statement. Make psychology accessible. I try to keep it simple, because I've got a caveman brain. Psychology of the Gooner. Every time I remember about this one, I'm like, damn, we really went there, didn't we? Religious trauma. That was a heavy one. An introduction to understanding schizophrenia. The path of unconditional happiness. That's some of my theoretical stuff. Some of these are entry-level, like, psychological topics, and then some of these are just, like, mental techniques. Try to have a good balance. Information wants to be free. Yar! Yar! Yo ho ho ho, a pirate's life for me. We'll go back to the question box here in just a second. Let me take a quick break and get up and stretch a minute. Yo ho, a pirate's life for me. Does anybody else ever feel like they're all about that pirate life? Has any of you ever had the impression that maybe we were on the same pirate ship in a past life? I'm trying to reunite with my old crew. I was a pirate in a past life. Trying to reunite with my old crew. Yo ho, a pirate's life for me. Now, I'm not saying that you have to believe in reincarnation, but what I am gonna say is just think about how fun it might be to think about. What sort of stuff might you have gotten up to in a past life? What sort of lessons did you learn? What sort of lessons have you still not learned throughout your incarnations? It's not something you have to believe. Although, personally, I don't see the harm in believing it. It's not like there's a right or wrong answer as far as what you believe. Well, asterisk on that one. Please see footnote. There are certain beliefs that are... Anyway. What sort of stuff do you think you might have gotten up to in a past life? You ever think about it? What sort of stuff were you getting up to in a past life? I hope I was a decent person. It took me a while to like myself in this life. I can assume I was probably the same sort of ass that I am. Western civilization did not actually invent the concept of liking yourself until the year 1970. Actually, it was in the 60s. We didn't invent the idea of liking yourself until the 1960s. Before that, the idea of liking yourself was seen as foolish and impossible. Or through quantum mechanics, what if your past life was in the future actually, and time as we know it is only linear to our brains? See, now we're on the same wavelength, but I was trying not to get too weird because I didn't want to scare anybody off. But yeah, there's no rule that says that your incarnations would have to pass linearly through time. You might reincarnate, hypothetically, in a completely different time period. I'm hoping that next time around I spawn in, like, ancient Greece. I want to just wear a bedsheet and eat grapes and talk about existence. I'm gonna incarnate as a Stoic philosopher. Argue with Socrates. Want to find Diogenes and tell him to take a shower. Now that's a deep cut for all the philosophy heads out there. Within the school of philosophy, Diogenes was the founder of the school of cynicism. Basically just the idea of like, why bother? He was known for living in the, just on the streets, like willingly. Yeah, I want to go and find Diogenes and say, take a bath, brother. Perhaps the meaning of life is not in how little of a shit you can give about how dirty you are. Maybe that guy was depressed AF. He was the founder of cynicism. He was the original, like, depressed Redditor. He was the embodiment of why bother? What's the point? And there are some things to learn about the wisdom of why bother, what's the point? Because sometimes that is the correct answer. You know, maybe you're just getting caught up in some unnecessary bullshit. And you're just like, why bother, what's the point? But you don't want to treat everything in your life that way, because it's you who implies meaning onto things within the context of your life. And so if you want your life to feel meaningful, then you have to act in ways that you find meaningful. You have to embrace gestures and mindsets that feel meaningful to you. It's not a race to the bottom. He definitely did take it to the extreme. The founder of cynicism. The crazy Greek philosopher that Plato called Socrates gone mad. He was one of the founders of the Cynic philosophy. He believed that people should live simple lives that reject all natural desires for wealth, power, or fame. He was an original socialist. He was an old-school Marxist. Instead, he encouraged people to live a life of intentional hardship and not be bound by social conventions. That's where he loses me. This is one of the traps that you see, like, men's mental health go in lately. You'll be like, I need to actively seek out suffering in order to toughen myself. It's like, no you don't. You have enough suffering going on already. You're gonna willingly seek it out just because you feel like it's productive? Don't you already have enough to work through already? You have to go find stuff? You have to go make stuff up? For some grand purpose? But no, there's, like, specific... The teachings of Diogenes are still alive and well in men's mental health today. But yeah, he went so far as to, like, willingly live outside. He was just all about that life. He did it for the love of the game. He was the original LARPer. He was exiled from his hometown following a scandal that involved currency debasement. He was debasing currency, and they probably used, like, coins and shit back then, so he's probably just like, who cares if I scrape the emperor's face off of this coin? They're like, dude, you can't do that. You can't deface currency. We only have so many of those coins. And he's like, fuck you. And so they're like, alright, get out of here. And then he went to Athens to go be a philosopher. Diogenes was that guy who had that fuck you, I won't do what you tell me attitude. But then he just takes it to the absolute extreme. To the point where you're just living on the street with the animals. Scrawling on your scrolls. And then people would just come and talk to him all the time. They come visit him in his big clay pot. Like, hey, Diogenes, what do you think about this? And he's like, what I think is that you should leave me alone. And they're like, wow, so wise, Diogenes. But I bet he stank. Can you imagine? This guy lived in ancient Greece and he was just willingly living in a big clay pot on the street with the animals. My dude was funky. Not gonna lie, I kinda stan. There are things to learn from Diogenes, but you should not model yourself after Diogenes. He's more of a cautionary tale than a role model. There are things that you can learn from him for sure. Like that don't give a fuck attitude. Legit grouch energy. You're right. Oscar the Grouch is a great representation of Diogenes. He lives in a trash can. And he spouts off bits of wisdom. I think pretty much anything can be interpreted as wisdom if you interpret it the right way. It's all in how you interpret it. You can listen to somebody dumb and be like, okay, well, I've gained some wisdom from that because now I know what not to do. Or I have learned more about how dumb people think, thus making me feel more understanding of just how dumb people can be. Control yourself, take only what you need from it. That's actually a Seneca the Elder quote. That's actually from the Stoic philosophers. Diogenes was, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. It was plagiarized by Rage Against the Machine. Control yourself, take only what you need from it belongs to the Stoics, not the Cynics. The cynics will teach us that life is shit, so be the biggest turd you can. It's maladaption maxing. Rage against my HP laptop. You know, you might be able to go into your settings and turn off... There might be a bunch of stuff that launches at boot up. That might be why it boots up so slow. It might be helpful to check that out. See what programs are enabled at startup. Turn them all off. There are some people out there who live life like they're trying to become King Turd of Shit Mountain. So these people will identify as libertarians. Right. Got some questions in the box. Let's get down to business. The last time I traveled was in August of 2023. I went to Maui to visit my brother, my sister-in-law, and my niece who live in... I'm gonna mispronounce this. Lahaina? I flew into Maui on August 8th. Is this one of the areas that was impacted by the fires? Didn't Maui have some fires recently, a couple years ago? Didn't like basically a whole village burn down? Like it was crazy. Do you think people maladaption maxing would have had their way of rationalizing broke, but their ability to have fun or passionate still intact, like in the brain? When I think maladaption maxing, I think people who idolize somebody like, I don't know, a certain other streamer who's known for wearing a white shirt all the time that isn't moist critical, but kind of looks like a bizarro version of moist critical. If like Rotten Rat Alarm Clock isn't maladaption maxing, I don't know what is. If like having roaches fall on you isn't maladaption maxing, I don't know what is. Asmongold? Hey, you said it, not me. My brother loves moist. The thing about him is he's a fence sitter. I feel like he's not a bad person, he's just, you know, he'll be late to the party when it comes to like, you know, he's just a bit of a fence sitter. Which I can live with because I... But I'm more about winning them over to my side than I am for like criticizing them for not being on my side already. I'd rather win more people over rather than end up pushing them over to the other side. I unfollowed him when he made that weird iDub shouldn't have apologized video. Well, what that really highlighted was how in social media, apologizing for something is often perceived as a weakness, when in reality, it's a sign of accountability and growth. But we don't really care about accountability and growth on social media, we just care about what gives us a thrill in the moment. Accountability and growth isn't especially exciting if you're going online for things that are just like juicy and dramatic. And so there's a lot of people out there who just peddle in drama, and they don't view something as an apology as something that's worthwhile because it's like... They view you as a cartoon character. How is it gonna feel if Homer Simpson is like, hey, you know what, actually, I need to be more careful. I'm putting my family at risk. I'm engaging in reckless behavior. I gotta get my shit together. I gotta go to therapy. Like, the people aren't gonna want to watch that because they watch you for entertainment. And so, apologies and growth and those sorts of things aren't always appreciated online because they forget that you're a human. They want you to be a static cartoon character, something that's predictable and entertaining. Owning your shit is how you grow. And there's a lot of people out there who sacrifice their growth in order to appease the internet masses. There are far too many people online who just are in a state of arrested development because they've got this crowd of people around them who just enable their shitty behavior. Self-reflection takes a certain level of bravery, and not everybody is cut out for it. All right. I got distracted, so I'm going to start this question over. My apologies. The last time I traveled was in August of 2023. I went to Maui to visit my brother, my sister-in-law, and my niece who live in Lahaina. I flew into Maui on August 8th. I wasn't aware of any crazy weather while on the flight, but quickly realized something was off when I was waiting for my brother to pick me up. All of the palm trees were bent at a 45-degree angle from the intense wind. Ooh. It awakens something primal in you, doesn't it? Nothing like an intense storm to really, like, whoa. It activates something within you. When my brother picked me up, he told me there was a hurricane a few hundred miles off the coast, which was why there was so much wind. I'm surprised that flights were going in if there was a hurricane that close. Super Troopers 3. I'll tell you what I think about that in a moment. I want to finish this question first. I've already been too distracted. So there was a hurricane a few hundred miles off the coast, which is why there was so much wind. We started to drive to Lahaina, avoiding a lot of falling branches and debris. Is it Lahaina? Lahaina? Is that... I don't want to keep mispronouncing it if I'm not saying it right. We eventually made it to their home where the four of us huddled around in semi-darkness because they had lost power early that morning. We sat around catching up and telling stories for about 45 minutes when we noticed some smoke in the distance. My sister-in-law was going to head to work, but was worried we would need to evacuate. And because we would have no way to communicate with her because no one had cell phone service, due to winds blowing over the cell towers. Oh, wow. This is slightly of an off topic, but there's like these long-range communicators that they make that work in like a mesh network, and you can send like text messages to each other. And so it doesn't rely on cell phone towers. The more I've been thinking about something like that a lot lately. It's just like, what would you do if there was no cell service? They just like relay with each other. The winds were so strong that a wall of fire just swept across the entire town. That sounds like an apocalypse situation. That sounds so scary. Holy shit. Hurricane winds plus fire is not... That's recipe for disaster. "30 minutes later, the smoke we were monitoring went from white to black and was getting thicker and coming closer. We decided to evacuate. My sister-in-law and niece in one car, my brother and I in another. My brother and I had to drive towards the smoke to grab a truck that belonged to my sister-in-law's sister, who lived a couple streets over. She just bought the truck and was off island. With black smoke blowing towards us, we made it to her place and grabbed the truck keys. I was then following my brother in the truck, smoke so thick I could barely see his car, roads were full of cars not moving or moving slowly because everyone was trying to leave. After being blocked by downed trees, my brother and I finally made it to a road that would take us out of Lahaina, following lots of others and also trying to escape." Wow. Mesh nets. Yeah, that's what I saw a YouTube video about it. It was a mesh net. And I'm like, that sounds so important for like an emergency situation. Because I'm like, in an emergency, it's like cell phone networks get overloaded because it's just one tower directing all of the traffic. And if something happens to the tower, it's like, what are you gonna do? That might be something I have to look into. Mesh nets can be built now with your neighbors. I'm gonna see if my neighbors want to start a mesh net. That's what I'm gonna do. My brother and his family had an evacuation plan set up with some of their friends north of Lahaina, which is where we were headed. About 2 hours of evacuation traffic, we made it to their friend's place where we sheltered for the night. No cell service, no internet. We spent the next few days in isolation from what happened to Lahaina. My brother and sister-in-law weren't able to drive back to Lahaina for 2.5 days, and when they finally did, they found their home was gone. Whew. Oh my god. That sounds so crazy. It's good that you all were able to get out. It's good that you all decided to leave when you did. Because in those types of situations, it's like, not everybody responds to that sensation of like, oh, I need to get out of here. There's always those people who are like, nah, I'm not going anywhere. So it's good that you listen to that feeling. We spent the next few days visiting friends that had also evacuated, listening to incredible stories of survival, and giving clothing, shoes, tears, and hugs. When the roads finally opened and we were able to get a flight home, I had to leave my brother, sister-in-law, and niece to recreate their life. I had to return home to my normal life, surrounded by people that were completely unaffected and unaware of the fire. This is the feeling that a person has when they return home from some sort of traumatic event in a different space. It's like you go back to what you're used to, and it's that dramatic shift of like where I was and what I survived, and these people here who have no idea what that was like. It sounds like a very scary, very stressful situation, and so, yeah, that type of stuff can stick with you. That type of stuff can be traumatic. It was a literal nightmare. been almost 3 years and I'm still afraid to travel. I would give anything to have the desire to travel again, but the thought of traveling leaves me incredibly overwhelmed. Understandable. You know, it's important to remember that the fire didn't happen because you traveled. It was just a very unlucky roll of the dice. If there was a hurricane blowing in, I'm surprised that they even had flights coming in, honestly. It's also important to remember that even though you traveled and you found yourself in a nightmare situation, you survived it. You got through it. You had what it takes to get through that situation. And so you can understand that this is something that doesn't happen every single time I travel. And even if something awful does happen when I travel, I'm able to navigate that. I've already survived such insane things. I would say that, you know, a couple years, like you said, it's been a few years, that's perfectly reasonable amount of time to just be like, I don't even want to think about traveling because I'm still trying to think about that crazy event that I went through. And it sounds like you're getting to a point where you're ready to start reopening that door so that you can reconnect with that appreciation for travel that brought you there in the first place and that brings you to all sorts of things in life. I've missed weddings, holidays, birthdays, and other important life events. I can't even find the courage to drive 4 hours to visit my parents. Since you mentioned that specifically, that's the one that I would challenge you to do. Since that's one that you mentioned specifically, that to me says that that would be a great place to start. It's probably something that you've done before. It's probably something that you've done and it went just fine. And so try to think about what could go right if I were to do that. What would it feel like? Oh, here, try this. Try this. This is something that I like to offer people when they're dealing with travel anxiety. Think about how you feel right here in this moment, wherever you're sitting right now. Imagine yourself in this same place, this same position. However, it's in the near future. It might be a few weeks, it might be a month or two. It's not too far off, though. We don't need to think that far ahead. Near future us, in this same spot. And this version of us just did the thing that we are concerned about doing. Imagine you're sitting right here, where you are now, a month from now, and you just got back. You just got home. You went and you visited your parents, and you just got back. How do you feel? How does that feel? The reason why we do that is because it's easier to imagine a future feeling if it's in a similar situation. It's harder to envision what it might feel like to be there at your parents' after driving there, because you're not there right now. And so you have to put more into imagining what it might feel like. But if you're imagining what you're feeling in this environment right now, just chilling at home or at, wherever you're at, and what it would feel like to have just done the thing that you're working up to doing. How would that feel? It's easier for our mind to generate, and that can form an anchor for us. It can give us something to latch onto that can help us to get through that thing and actually make it happen. We have a clearer understanding of what the reward is. Curious, what is a meshnet? There's a YouTube video that I'll show you, but I'll show you after I finish this question. There's this guy who describes it. Well, no, I'll just describe it after, but let me finish this question. I've been in therapy since before this happened. I take antidepressants and I go to hot yoga, but I don't know what else I can do to help heal from this. Forgive yourself for taking time to get over this. Forgive yourself for taking the time that you needed to get over this. You were in hell on earth, and you've lived to tell the tale. Do you have any advice or next steps to offer? I think we've talked about quite a few just in the course of reading this, but the reason why you're feeling frustrated right now is because that is your body's desire to change. It wants to do something about this. It's getting ready to do something about this. So maybe start planning a trip to go down and visit your parents. Maybe you can go spend the weekend there. I'm sure they'd love to see you. It's nothing you haven't already done. All you gotta do is do it again. Okay, so what is a meshnet? A meshnet is like a local user-to-user communication service. And they make these like little walkie-talkie type things. And they link together in a mesh network so they communicate with each other so they don't have to rely on like cell towers and stuff. It's basically like a fancy walkie-talkie, except you can send text messages and shit over it. And they all communicate with each other instead of relying on a central tower like cell phones. How can I take a break from work when during a break my mind is still not resting, thus resulting in me not being so efficient even after the said break is over and I'm back to work? We're looking for some efficiency maxing? Nah, I'm just joking around. It's because our brains take time to shift gears. Alternating between work mode and rest mode, it takes adjustment mentally to shift between those two modes. And so if you're working, it's like, okay, time to take your mandatory break now, and you go take your mandatory break. Your brain is still thinking about working. What may help is to start thinking about your break sooner. Before you're, maybe that could help you to transition into being in break mode. If you start thinking about what you're going to do on your break an hour before your break, or maybe even just a few minutes before your break, to give your brain some time to shift gears into break mode, maybe 5-10 minutes before your break, start thinking about what you're going to do on your break. A bit of a cool down phase as you transition from work mode to break mode. Thus resulting in me not being so efficient even after the said break is over and I'm back to work. Hey, just do the job they pay you for. Do the job they pay you for. But yeah, mentally shifting gears. There's a few different things you can do to help set that into motion. You can do some grounding by focusing on your body to redirect your attention away from your thoughts. For example, just focus on your breathing. Focus on taking big, satisfying breaths. Try to breathe in a relaxing way. This will help to shift your body into relaxation mode. The key is in your breathing. It'll slow your heart rate, and you'll feel more relaxed. So we're not here to worry about efficiency maxing, we're actually worried about relaxation maxing. Find things that can redirect your attention away from your thoughts and into your senses. Pay attention to the things that you could see, hear, feel, touch, taste. Try to ground yourself in the moment. I'm sad because I feel like I'm disappointing my wife lately. She wants to go to dinner with my family, but I'm really tired after work and don't feel like going to a dinner with like 12 people. You know what? I don't blame you. I don't blame you. But it's not like you have to do it every week. I'm not sure what the rules are in this family, but is it okay to do a smaller arrangement, or does everybody have to be there? Going to dinner with 12 people sounds exhausting. It sounds like a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong, that sounds like a thrill. But it does sound like it would be very exhausting. As most fun things are, they tend to leave you feeling a bit worn out afterwards. I want to make her happy and not be a disappointment. She wants to go so she doesn't feel left out, but it's hard to find the energy. And I hate going to restaurants with that many people. We're at odds and not sure what to do. Any advice? There's nothing stopping her from going. Imagine that she were going with or without you. Imagine that, because she could decide that she wants to go have dinner with your family. There's nothing stopping her from doing that. There's nothing wrong about her doing that. And so imagine that she were to decide to do that. Imagine that she was going to just go with or without you. What you might find is that might actually energize you to get out and go do it. The worry of like her going and doing it without you You know, it really brings you face to face with that idea that you were talking about like letting this person down because they want to do something, but I just don't feel like I have the energy for it. We already know that it's going to be exhausting to go to dinner with 12 people, but it's also going to be a lot of fun. And so think about the ways in which it may also help to energize you and not just the ways in which it's going to tucker you out. We already know that. It's going to tucker you out. I feel tired just thinking about going to dinner with a whole gang of people like that. But it would also be a lot of fun. And you get to see people that you don't get to see all the time. And you make your wife happy. It's a win-win. So that's my advice. That's my advice. Just imagine how it would feel if your wife came in and she's like, you know what? I decided I want to go out to dinner with your family. I was tired of waiting on you to do it, so I'm just going to go with them. Imagine what a fire that would put under you to be like, no, I'll go. I'm putting myself in that position and I'm like, oh yeah, that would get me fired up. That would be like, no, I'll go. I will. It'll be a good time. It'll leave you tired out, but we already do that. It was to be anticipated. You could have had the day off from work and then gone to dinner. Maybe you could go on a day off. You know, maybe you don't have to go on a day that you work. Maybe you could go on a day off. Maybe that might help. But it's still an event anyway, you know, but try to do it on one of your days off. Or just slam a energy drink. That's what I do. If I have a social obligation and I know that I'm gonna be feeling sleepy halfway through, I use performance-enhancing substances. I bust out the energy drink. Or even if you didn't go, she could come back and share fun tales with you when she returns. That's valid too. True. If she really wants to go, and she does just go by herself, and you are just like not up to doing it, that's fine too. There's nothing wrong with that. Just realize that they are going to talk about you since you're not there. They're gonna be like, hey, where's the boy? You're gonna say, oh, he was too sleepy. Oh yes, that's our sleepy boy. He's always been so sleepy his whole life. I know too much about this because that's me. I'm the sleepy boy. That's me in my life. I'm like, It's just the consequence of being a big person. It just takes a lot of energy to get up and move around. And it's just like, that's gonna be like, I'm gonna have to eat an extra 1,000 calories just to, you know, I don't get good gas mileage as a big fucker. They'd talk about them even if they were there. It's true. Hopefully fun stories. They might try to say things that embarrass you, though. You get a little bit of Bix whenever you're hanging out with a big family group. It's either fun stories or, hey, remember that time that you did something embarrassing when you were a baby? They're like, no, I don't. I was a baby, actually. Like, oh yeah, but we all did, and it was really funny. Like, I bet that was really funny. I have no memory of it. You love it anyway, though. Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny when you go hang out with your family and they're just talking about stuff you did before you had before you were really, like, online? Before you really had a sense of awareness? You're just like, oh, yep. You're right. I did used to pee and poop in my pants. Crazy, right? And hopefully, if I play my cards right, I'll live to see myself peeing and pooping in my pants again. I'll make it to 100 years old, and I'll just be just as carefree as I was as a baby, just letting it loose. Pee and poop maxing. It's true. There's nothing more liberating than just being able to shit your pants. And that's what old people can have. You know, they're a bit more free than us in some ways. Just imagine that level of not giving a fuck. Life is a circle, and it starts and ends with you pooping your pants. You should see me at All You Can Eat Shrimp. Oh, daddy. Oh, daddy. Hello, friend. I'm searching for that video you showed us about how to shut up the monkey in your brain. Thank you for everything that you do. Oh, yeah, the monkey mind. Okay, hold on. I got you. I got the video. They tell me that's a lot of poop, brother. That's a lot of poop, brother. You gotta keep your waders on, brother. The poop is too high, brother. The guy who talks about the monkey mind that I've showed his videos is this guy. He's a Tibetan monk, and his name is Mingyur Rinpoche. This guy is an Olympic-level meditator. And he's the one who... Okay, so this is the video here. I'll play it for you.
We can meditate everywhere, anytime. Even 3 seconds, 2 seconds, while you're walking, while you're having coffee and tea, while you're having meeting, so you can meditate. Many people has a little bit misunderstanding about meditation. They think meditation meaning think of nothing, concentrate. So push too much. So we cannot block thought and emotion. In fact, we need thought and emotion. So whether you listen to your monkey mind or not, that's the issue. What I call monkey mind, mine is chatting, pala 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 yada yada. So monkey mind is giving you opinion. So whether you listen to opinion or not, it's up to you, right? So through meditation, what we do is we have to make friends with the monkey mind. But how to make friends? Just giving banana doesn't work, So right method is you need to give job to monkey mind. How to give job monkey mind? So the simple meditation technique is be aware of the breath. So you ask monkey mind, hello, what's breath? So monkey mind says, yeah, good idea. And be aware of breath. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in. There's a lot of thought comes at the background. Don't care, no problem. So as long as if you're not forget your breath, anything is okay. Not need too much concentration. Just simply be aware of your breath. Breathe in, out, in. Even 2 breath, 1 breath. So therefore, we can meditate everywhere, anytime.
So these are tips from a meditation master. You treat every individual breath as an act of meditation. Meditation isn't about you sitting there and doing it for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour. There were times in my meditation practice where I would just see how long I could go, and what I found was that I got to the point where I could just go for hours. And then I realized I'm not getting anything done. I'm having fun, but I'm not really getting anything done because there are things out in the world that I need to be engaging with. And so he talks about doing life as a meditative practice. You try to hold on to that meditative mindset as you move through life. Something that you just gradually just keep returning to. I got good at it for a while, but I'm rusty now. Got to knock the rust off. What you'll find is that you will pick up right where you left off. In no time at all. It's just like riding a bike. If anything, you might even be better than you were when you left off because you've probably been meditating without knowing that you were meditating in the meantime. Because that's the thing about meditating, is that it's also something that you can do without identifying it as meditating. Sometimes you do it in the shower. Sometimes you do it when you're laying there right before bed or right after you wake up. Sometimes you're just driving in the car and you just kind of zone out. I've been in a loop of having to occupy my brain too much lately. The art is in learning when to pick it up and when to put it down. So you've been picking it up and you've been holding it for a while. You're trying to find time to put it back down again. So what is he talking about when he means the monkey mind? The monkey mind is the part of our awareness, the part of our brains that is preoccupied with stuff like, what do I need to do? Should I go eat something? Should I go do this? Should I go do that? It's that sort of like restless energy that's just constantly trying to figure out, okay, what next? What do I do now? And you give it a job. You're like, we're going to focus on our breath. Oh, okay. And you just put all of your awareness into that breath. You turn all of your thoughts and attentions onto that breath as a way to put some distance in between you and your thinking. And then you just keep doing that. And then one day you realize, oh, I actually am pretty good at meditation. It sounds like money mind is do and meditative mind is be. Capitalism at it again. I feel like a Scooby-Doo episode and I keep pulling the mask off the villain and it's like capitalism again. It's like Jeff Bezos? Elon Musk? Mark Zuckerberg? It's like, it's always some capitalist under the mask. That was a typo of the monkey mind. I went with it anyway. I went with it anyway because it still made sense. That's the thing. But no, you're right. It is monkey mind is due. And that's why capitalism is a very monkey mind thing, isn't it? Isn't capitalism very monkey mind coded? Like, gotta make more money, gotta get a bigger pile of resources, gotta build up more, gotta have enough berries to survive the winter. Capitalism is very monkey mind coded. That's why it's important to ascend to a higher level of consciousness. Snap out of monkey mind. Learn to work and coexist with monkey mind. It's monkey mind, that's where the anxiety lives too. It's always chattering at you. Yada 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 yada.
What I call monkey mind, mine is chatting, pala 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 yada yada. So monkey mind is giving you opinion. So whether you listen to opinion or not, it's up to you, right?
So you can identify that my thoughts are running, they're just offering opinions to me. A thought is not the same thing as a belief. A belief is just a thought that you choose to keep thinking.
Chatting, pala 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 yada yada. So monkey mind is giving you opinion. So whether you listen to opinion or not, it's up to you, right? So through meditation, what we do is we have to make friends with the monkey mind. But
When he says just giving it a banana doesn't always work, that's like when we appease our monkey mind by like having a snack. Like sure, sometimes that's nice, monkey mind is riled up, I give monkey a banana and then monkey calms down. But a banana's not gonna fix every problem that monkey mind is trying to deal with. Or doom scrolling maybe. True, that's another good example, is it's like you're just getting that impression. It's not like doom. The thing about doom scrolling is that it kind of gives our brain the impression of productivity without actually being productivity, and so it's just this like dissociative placeholder. Right, sometimes monkey wants peanut butter and jelly. Throw it on some bread too. Give me a glass of milk while you're at it. And so the question was, how do you shut up the monkey in the brain? That's the video. That's meditation and monkey mind. And the art is to learn to make friends with the monkey mind. Alright, everybody. That's gonna be it for today. I'm gonna go make some dinner. Give me one sec. What am I making? I'm gonna be making a chicken pasta. It's gonna be like kind of Cajun themed. Like a Cajun chicken pasta with some chicken and sausage. It's gonna be tasty. Alright, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. I hope you'll have a good night, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Have a good weekend, everybody. Bye-bye. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you later. Thanks for hanging out. Now go do something else.